hard, good job. Like, you don't have to be a good singer. They all are because they've been singing like every day after school since they were in elementary school. So pretty much everybody's like acceptable, at least. Like, but it doesn't matter. Like, just go for it.
We had some queer several years back, and they went out to a third place. They wouldn't let them finish. But
No, they wouldn't let your dad finish?
Nope.
That is the first time I've ever heard of that happening. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he's bad.
But yeah, this is a commercial I saw. I just really like, who's your boss? But yeah, any questions, comments, concerns, things to share? I know we got some other people who learn demand here, so we've got like a quorum.
So if you take a Japanese class, they teach you pretty much all the polite Japanese. Are there situations where you don't use the polite Japanese?
As a foreigner?
Yeah.
Like, if you're just visiting, no. I tend to default, like, here's the thing. The Japanese, they will cut you a lot of slack. Because they're like, Japanese is super hard. I will tell you. So I would get this comment a lot. Nihongo wa jouzu desu ne. It's like, your Japanese is very good. And you're like, oh, yeah, it is. I just totally had a conversation with you and got directions. And like, yeah. And then my mom came to visit. And she said, arigato, but not that good. And they were like, ah, Nihongo wa jouzu desu ne. I was like, what does this mean? So they cut you a lot of slack with Japanese. They're like, you're trying, good job. So if you are, they will not generally take offense if you're like, I did not use the proper length of speech, and now I have been rude to you by accident. But I would default to at least long form. If you are living there and you make friends with somebody, generally what I would say is follow their lead. Like, if your friend starts using less sort of formal Japanese with you, or asks for your first name, that kind of thing, you can sort of reciprocate. You can sort of be like, oh, hey, what's your first name? You know, I had Japanese friends who introduced themselves with their first name, which is pretty uncommon in Japan, because they were like, you're a foreigner. That's how foreigners work. And I was like, that is how foreigners work. How are you? So yeah, just follow their lead is what I would say. It's probably the best. And if you're talking to strangers, so default to go on form. So that's what everybody defaults to. So does anybody have a question who has not had a question before? In the back, with blue hair.
Do you bow to everyone you meet, and how do you know how far to bow?
Okay, so you don't bow to everybody you meet, like on the street. Yeah, it was just like the way I was like, this is not actually what you mean, but like when you first said it, I was like, no. When you get introduced to people, you do. It's kind of, how do you know? You do what everybody else is doing, and you don't do what they're not doing. Oh, we've got an opinion in the back. I was like, you bow depending on like how fancy they are and how not fancy you are. But again, you're a gaijin. You can do what you want.
I was just going to say it's a really ceremonial thing. Like, anytime you have a ceremony, there are very specific times that you must bow.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, sorry. If you're in like a ceremony, like like school graduation and stuff, they would literally be like, everybody stand, everybody bow. And like there are like moments where everybody's like bowing and that kind of thing. And like if you're having like an award given or something, like there are moments to do that. If somebody is, but like generally you're gonna bow when you're introduced to somebody or you're meeting somebody, sort of slightly self-introductions. But we've got another opinion.
And
you got more to say.
I was just gonna say that in kindergarten they actually have bowing training, where they'll teach you how long you're supposed to bow for, and they do this.
Yeah. Yeah, so here's the thing, is like, they know you didn't get bowing training. So you're like, I don't think that's a thing in America. So like, just do your best, and again, they're gonna cut you a lot of slack. So like, oh, they bowed, they knew that was a thing. Good job. But yeah, I would just sort of like, keep in mind, like the basic thing is keep in mind the status of the person in relation to you that you're being like introduced to. So like, my principal bowed slightly, and I like bowed more. Because he was the principal and I was like the lowest person on the hospital. Does that help at all? Okay.
So would it be appropriate to say bow when expressing gratitude?
I mean, like if my friend had like gave me something, I'd just be like, arigato. But if like somebody gave you a present and you have to be like, oh, is it okay if I open it now? Like, oh, it's so nice, and I'd be like, no, it's trash. You'd be like, oh no, it's lovely. And I'd be like, no, it's nothing. Can I open it? I'm like, yeah, sure. But yeah, like, You can bow with gratitude, and again, the amount of gratitude kind of gives, like, if you bow and they give you like a piece of candy, they're gonna be like, what a weirdo. If you go like, oh thanks, like bow your head, they'll be like, oh yeah, that's fine. Maybe really formal for a piece of candy, but so yeah, it's kind of like what did they give you and like how grateful are you? So, inclinometer over here. Somebody back there had a hand up.
Yeah, that was just me.
David, hi, what's up?
I was just
Man,
saying
we really
that
do
you
have
do
a
little
car. I was
bows
like, at least
all
three.
the time. Like,
Huh?
You do little bows all the time. Like, whenever I say thank you, I automatically do a little
Yeah.
bow. Even if I'm talking on the phone,
Yeah.
if the car like stops
Yeah.
and lets me cross, I bow to them as I go across the street. I still do that here.
Yep.
I do that too.
Instead of waving, yeah, that is true. It's like you do bow a lot. You do like little like instead of waving when you cross the street, you're like, oh thank you, oh sorry. There's also this, is you're bowing and like sort of like this.
Don't eat me, don't eat me, don't eat me.
Oh no, I did the thing. I did the thing. Oh no, not the thing. Here, sit on that. That's important. Everybody needs to look at Darth Vader. But you know, like the two-handed bow thing. It's like there's this one-handed one that you do when you're like trying to get through a crowd, and you're like, you use that as like your shark. And bowing on the phone is definitely a thing that happens. Like not just Japanese people. You will do it. You'll be like, oh thank you. Oh I'm sorry. Oh why am I doing this? You're not here. Yes.
Is it true that if someone is giving you a gift, you have to pretty much accept it twice? Like they say, here, this is for you. Oh no, I can't. Here, it's yours. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and then you have to be, oh, it's lovely, and they're like, oh, it's trash. Yeah. There's like a whole thing around gifts where it's like, oh, I couldn't possibly. No, and just like eventually it's like, I was always like, thanks. The reason I never got my gift anymore. I don't know what it is.
Similar to the bowing question, honorific usage.
You are a foreigner. You like as long as you don't call somebody by their first name without invitation, and make sure you say san or sensei or whatever. Beyond that, you're not gonna have to worry about it. Honorific usages like real like keigo, the kind of stuff they use when they work in like a hotel, that kind of thing. Actually, Japanese people often have to take lessons on that, so like you are totally excused. Like don't worry too much about that. But like generally like san, or if they're like a teacher or a doctor, like a physician, sensei, those are basically the only two, like you know, Tanaka-san.
Oh, I've heard sama as a more.
Don't use sama.
Okay.
It's like it's not gonna come up basically. I would say. You want to bring up an example?
Yeah, well, I was just going to say that phones are an exception to the Keigo rule. They will not rely on you on the phone. Like,
No?
you can mention that you're a foreigner, and they're just like, oh, this is my
This is
job.
how I got rid of like the people who call you on the phone and try to sell you stuff. I'd be like, thank you, telemarketers. I'm tired. They'd be like moshi moshi, and I'd be like hello. I'd be like sometimes they kept going, and I was like, yes, I don't get you. Just lie. I stopped answering the phone properly. Initially I was like moshi moshi, and they'd be like moshi moshi, would you like to buy crabs? I'd be like, I got one, I was like, are you selling crabs from Hokkaido? I don't know what's happening. Why? And then I was like, never again. But yeah, the phone's a weird situation. They might not believe that you're a foreigner, or I was like, I never had to really call anybody. Again, I lived in Japan on the JET program. I had somebody called my town supervisor. She did all that stuff for me, and it was nice. I was like, you call the person because I'm scared of the plumber. And she was like, okay.
A couple things about the whole public transportation thing, because I heard that like the trains only run to like a certain part of the day, like most trains do here, like in our country. But I heard that they can differ like pretty substantially as far as like what times they run at and like what time they stop for the night.
You are going to want to double check when your last train is. Where I live, the last train was like 1, because it was leaving Tokyo with like the last of the commuters who weren't going to have to stay in like a capsule hotel for the night. Other areas it was much earlier. But I would say, yeah, I mean, it does differ. And the reason, I mean, overnight what they do is they ship all the cargo overnight, which is why they can run the passenger trains really efficiently during the day. But yeah, you're gonna want to double check your last train because otherwise you are living in a capsule hotel.
I also heard that like taxis can be very, very expensive, like ridiculously expensive, like a couple $100 if you're.
Well, it depends. I mean, obviously it depends how far you're going.
Yeah.
I used to take the taxi like 3 miles from the train station to my house, and it was like $15 every time, I think ish. But I mean, I also lived in Goodman. I didn't live in Tokyo. Like it's gonna again, taxis are kind of they're gonna be more expensive than here because let's be real, everything is more expensive in Japan than here except for Japanese food. So and manga. Manga's less expensive, but it's a Japanese. So in the back, somebody had a hand up.
Picture menus, are they mostly just in touristy areas? Or?
No, picture menus are my favorite because I don't know any food kanji because I never studied. No, yeah, most menus or a lot of menus. I mean, occasionally you go someplace that doesn't have them, and then you're like, well, I have made a poor decision. But yeah, most restaurants, even like Japanese restaurants for Japanese people, will have like picture menus. And it's great because then you just like point at it, and you're like, well, that's what I want. Does not look like it's a horrifying squid. Let's eat it. Or you could eat the horrifying squid.
How safe is it to walk around like Tokyo at night?
How safe is it to walk around Tokyo at night? I'm going to go to the quorum on this, but I feel like it's pretty safe. I mean, of all the places, Tokyo is probably like there is going to be the place where there are areas that are less safe. But in general, especially if you're in a safe, there's police. Like the thing they do is they have like, especially in Tokyo, they have police boxes on like every corner. So there's like a police guy, officer or lady, police officer. That's gender neutral. In a police office, like in every ward and neighborhood in Tokyo, which is a big part. So it's like if you get confused or lost, you can look for directions, or if you are scared for your life, you can look for directions. And also, people return stuff like wallets there. So if you lose your wallet, or if you find a wallet, take it to the police station. I would say that basically people, like, when I moved to Japan, I was like, oh, anime is like sports. Like, not everybody is into it. And most of what you get on, like, regular cable is actually, like, kids anime. Like, you don't get a lot of the, like, anime that we watch on, like, TV. And I was like, do you know Cowboy Bebop? To my friends, and they were like, what is that? And I was like, how? But it's the most famous. It's the best. What? So yeah, like a lot of people just aren't into anime. So the idea about otaku, when I hear the word otaku, I think of like the guy, like, you know, somebody that lives in their mom's basement and has a lot of figurines and doesn't go out a lot. But so I think that the way that we use it here is like a positive self-identifier is not the way it's used, but you're not going to necessarily get it used as like, you stupid head. Like, it's not thrown around that way.
When you went to school, did you have to clean up after like at the end of the day?
The kids did. Every kid, like every homeroom has to clean up, and there was like once every couple months they had to wax the whole school floors. And yeah, they didn't have a janitor, so the kids had to clean up the school, which was kind of interesting. Does your school have a janitor? Because my school didn't.
No janitor, but generally when there's cleaning time, like when you're especially in elementary school, they'll have cleaning time, which is like 15 minutes after lunchtime, and you are expected to participate in cleaning up with everyone else.
Well, yes. This depends on where you live. I was like, because where I went to school, I was not in the classroom a lot of the time. I was in the teacher's room. So I'd be like, it's cleaning time. I'm not cleaning because I'm a jerk. But yeah, most people would go and do like, they would join like a cleaning group and clean up their school and stuff. So yeah, the kids and the teachers, everybody has to help clean up. I was just not very good at participating in stuff.
Were you involved in extracurriculars in the school you were at?
Again, I was not super good about doing stuff. I went to see them occasionally. I'd be like, I'm gonna go look at the extracurriculars, and I was like, I'm too socially awkward sometimes. I was like, oh, I want to play volleyball's hard, but I want to know the kendo kids, and they'd be like, hi teacher, that we never see because there are 800 of us, and we see us very occasionally. I'd be like, hi. They're like, why are you here? I'm like, I just want to watch you run around. Some people I know did like actually join like a club. Like I knew somebody who was a member of her school's like flower club, I know people who join judo, like you can, if you're working in school. I think I have time for like one more question. I don't know what's after me.
Price is Right is after.
Yeah, I mean, I got like 5 minutes, but technically I'm supposed to be wrapping up. Oh, the Price is Right. Ooh, we gotta get out. We got a game show. We gotta set up their wheel. Set a wheel, Price is Right. I don't know.
Are joining school clubs for the students mandatory, or does that really actually depend on the school?
It is, well, it was not mandatory in my school. It's mandatory in yours. Okay, so it depends on the school. My kids were, like, they were sent around, there was like several weeks where they were tested out each one, for like a couple weeks, and then they joined a club, and then they were in that club for life, or at least until high school, when they had another chance to switch. But like, once you join a club, it's mandatory. They were like, you are at baseball all day, like morning, night, and Saturday. Like, it's a commitment. But I think there were kids in my school who weren't in clubs. I don't know. So it must depend on the school. All right, one last question. Oh, I was like, have we answered all the questions? Amazing.
The program you were part of, did you just travel under a standard passport, standard blue passport?
Yeah. I had a passport. They took my passport and sent it away and got a Japanese working visa, which was extended when I was there for 2 years instead of like the program I was on. You could extend each 1 year contract up to 5 years, like up to doing 5 years. So then they just like extend your visa. But yeah, I mean it was just a regular passport. But you do have to get a visa. Otherwise, you will not be able to stay in Japan for a year. And also, you will not be able to work in Japan without a working visa. Yeah, pretty standard visa stuff. Nope, you're like, you can work in Japan without a visa. I'm like, what?
I was just gonna make a visa comment because they recently changed the
You know way more about the visa situation right now than I do, so go, be free.
No, they changed the rules about it, and now you can, I mean, the JET program is obviously different things, so they do the 1 year, 1 year. But it used to be that foreigners could only get up to a 3-year visa, and then after 8 years, you could apply for permanent residency. But now you can actually get a 5-year working visa.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, because a lot of jets actually, I think it was actually, they give us like a 3-year visa, and then on your like 4th year, you have to go get the 2-year like extension. So that's cool. You could just stay on the same visa the whole time. Hooray! But yeah, okay. So I am supposed to tell you. Thank you for coming, by the way. Hooray! Sunday morning while we were talking. I am supposed to tell you that we are doing panel feedback forums this year, and they have not. Like, so if you hated this panel, or if you thought that it was the best thing that ever happened, and we all know which one is better, the correct one, there is a panel feedback form that you can fill out right now. There's a QR code that you can scan, and presumably it's also linked on our website. I don't know. But you can fill that out, and it allows you to give feedback and some comments.
And that's it.
You want to make panels better. So do that. Woo!